Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the All Juve Cast Quarantine Classic Rewinds, we'll call them. But yeah, we're just having a blast recapping some classic matches. And Graham is joining me for another one. Graham, how you doing, man?
Hello again.
Yeah,
Doing
this
good,
one
thanks.
was a bit of a gem that you had dug up. And it's not too old. 2012, 2013 season. First leg in Champions League versus Celtic. And yeah, this was actually like not as fresh in my memory as I would expect something from 2012-13. So part of that is worrying for me because I'm probably getting really, really old. And now it's starting to come to light. But it was fun to watch because I forgot about so much of it. But it actually got my blood boiling. Probably the first one of these classic recaps that got my blood boiling. But I'll let you paint the picture for us of some of the build up that was going into this match.
Yeah, so this was Antonio Conte's first time in the Champions League as Juventus manager. So we'd had Conte for the full season, we won the Scudetto again, and now we're going to see how we would fare in the Champions League. And the results had been mixed in the group stage. I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe we never lost a game, but it was 3 wins and 3 draws. And I'm pretty sure the first 2 games we had, we drew with Chelsea and Shakhtar Donetsk, and then we started the ball rolling with wins against Nordsjælland and Chelsea and Shakhtar at the end. So we won the group, and you're always 9 times out of 10 you're going to get a favourable draw in the round of 16. And lo and behold, we got Glasgow Celtic, which Celtic are a mixed bag. I mean, maybe not so much now, but more so back then. They were known for being a tough side at home in Glasgow, and I believe no Italian side had beaten them at home during the Champions League. So since it was rebranded in the early noughties, I think it was, and even Juventus hadn't beaten them the last time they played either, which is something that I regularly get reminded of. And it's a game from 2001, and I don't think I've even seen it. I've seen highlights of it because I was wondering to myself, it was 4-3 the full time score. We lost 4-3, and I'm thinking, how the hell did Juventus lose 4-3? And then I looked into it, and the reason I think we lost was it was a final group game, and we'd already qualified. So you know how that usually works
Yeah,
out. A bit of rotation, the players don't really care as much about it. But they like to bring that result up quite a lot, as if it's like, a wee medal of honour they've got. And but they were tough as well during this season. During this season, Celtic hadn't lost at home. So in their group, they drew 0-0 with Benfica, which is an all right result. I think Benfica were the Portuguese champions. They beat Barcelona 2-1, and then they beat Spartak Moscow 2-1 to seal their place in the knockout round. So they weren't going to be a pushover. There weren't going to be any mugs.
yeah.
And particularly the Barcelona result gave them a lot of confidence going into this game, because Juventus were just beginning to get to the level where they had been before the whole Calciopoli thing. It took us quite a while to get back up to the level that we are at right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure most Juventus fans were just satisfied to get out of the group.
Yeah.
It'd been so long. I mean, we hadn't qualified for the knockout round since 2008, 2008-9 season,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we were favourites to go through to the quarter-finals, but we would have to put a good performance in. And on a personal note, I was at college at the time when this game got played, and I was a Celtic fan in my class. And you get a bit of banter winding each other up, and he kept persistently saying to me for a full week in the build up to this game, he was like, "We're going to beat you, we're going to beat you," and I'm like, "You're not going to beat Juventus." It's like, "We beat Barcelona, we'll beat you." And then, spoiler alert, he says to me, "We'll beat you 3-0." I says, "All right, you'll beat us 3-0." And after the result, I went back into college the following day, and I said to him, "Well, on the bright side, mate, you got the scoreline right."
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was trying to even recall. So Champions League matches for me are always frustrating because it's right during work hours. So if I happen to sometimes, and I've been known to take personal days every now and then if I absolutely have to watch a match and I don't want to do it. I could still, like, I have the freedom at my job to stream it on a computer and have it going, but it's not the same. It doesn't
Yeah,
have your undivided attention. You miss so much, and then I'm like just frustrated, right? So sometimes I'll record, I'll watch after the fact. If I really just want to be part of it live, I'll take a personal day, like I did most recently with the Atletico Madrid second leg. That I was very happy to take a personal day, and then that worked out fantastically. So maybe I got to do that more often.
yeah.
Uh,
I wouldn't like to imagine you watching the second leg against Atletico Madrid at work.
yeah.
I mean, there'd just be a big roar coming from your office, and people would be like, "What the hell is going on
Oh
there?"
yeah. Well, that happens naturally. So I think they actually appreciate me leaving the office because it's just there's sometimes inappropriate words being thrown out or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
And, I think everybody at my work seems to know who Blaise Matuidi and Sami Khedira are, though. So they seem to get thrown out there a lot. So let's get to the lineups in this one. So yeah, you talked about the banter between the Celtic supporter there, and just in the media in this one to build up, there was a lot of hype being built up around Celtic,
yeah,
as opposed to Juve, and it was just like, okay, you and I will get into this through the match. The commentators for this particular match played a huge part in my blood boiling and getting me fired up because they were just playing into that hype big time, big time. So it was an away match for Juve, obviously. And let's get into the lineups. For Celtic, we've got Forster in goal. Then we have Lustig, Wilson, Ambrose, Izaguirre, with Forrest, Brown, Wanyama, Mulgrew, Commons, and Hooper up front for Celtic. Juve's going to go with, and my cat's trying to get into this damn pod, so hang on a second here. We got Buffon in goal with Barzali, Bonucci, Caceres, Lichtsteiner, Vidal, Pirlo, Marquisio, and Peluso. So it is going to play out as three at the back, five across the middle. Lichtsteiner and Peluso being those outside backs, essentially. And then we've got Matri and Vucinic up front. So, yeah, I mean, back then, this is the midfield that minus Pogba that we came to realize, looking back, how awesome it actually was, you know?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
And as we get into this match, I will say the atmosphere was pretty raucous there from the Celtic fans. I will give them that. As the right from when the players step out, and we saw them in the tunnel, and it was kind of cool. This particular match was not on Footballia there that I normally use, so you managed to have it in your arsenal there. So you sent her over, and it was greatly appreciated. And I remember watching that, seeing the players in the tunnel. So the Celtic guys were all ready. Their players were there, and slowly, the Juve players would make their way out. Vidal walked out and stood right next to the Celtic guys on his own. Pirlo, Marquisio, Barzagli, they're all kind of staying along the side wall. So Celtic's facing the doors, and then you have the Juventini against the wall this way. But Vidal was right next to the Celtic guys, just standing there. And nobody moves. The refs are all ready. Nobody's moving. And then you hear the voice, and you hear the Juventini start to get, the Juve players start to get ramped up. Of course, it's Buffon. Nobody does a damn thing until Gigi comes out and says, now we're ready to walk out there. So he comes out. He stands right in front of Vidal, just in behind the refs, and then they're ready to go. And I just remember that, and I was just like, it was cool to see the camera because you start to see the guys looking at the Juve players. So all this hype and all this build up, and pumping Celtic up or whatnot. But as the Juve players start to come out, you could see it in Celtic's eyes there. They were eyeing them up, almost trying to do some kind of intimidation thing, But Vidal goes out there and he stands right next to them. He's like, I don't care. Pirlo's looking at them, and he almost has a comical kind of look about him because he's looking at them like, these scrubs? Who cares, And then by the time Buffon comes out, and then he's got that presence and he's, spurring the guys on, then you see them like, okay, yeah, I don't think this is going to work with these guys. And it was just fun to watch that, right? And then they come out, take the pitch, and the roar from the crowd was just insane. And you knew that it was going to be a long one if we don't get that first one. They would make it, pretty bad for us if we allow one right off the bat, because they do play a physical game. Like, you knew that was what they were going to do. They were going to try and bully us because they did it, as you mentioned, to Barca, right? And so we start getting into this game. It's like a minute in. Celtic gets a long range effort. Buffon comes out. He didn't hang on to it. It kind of just goes out for a corner kick. And the atmosphere just, goes nuts over this. Just a routine little play. It goes out for a corner, but they're losing it. And then the announcers, they start right out the gate, a minute in. So this is a nothing atmosphere, eh? And again, going back to Buffon's words leading up to this.
So what Buffon said, that I don't even think it was meant as an insult, because Buffon's Italian. He plays in Italy, so whenever he'll come to the UK, whether it's against a Scottish team or an English team, if he gets asked about an atmosphere, because British teams are known for generating a good atmosphere, if he gets asked about that, he's just going to say, yeah, it's a standard British football atmosphere. He's not meaning that as an insult. He's just meaning, yeah, British atmospheres are different from Italian football atmospheres in general. And they took that as, so our atmosphere's nothing special, eh? Well, wait till you get to this place, mate.
Yeah, and I mean, it's friggin' Buffon. I mean, the guy's played all these major stadiums. He's won the World Cup, it's just I'm sure he's used to your atmosphere. It's like, take it as a knock if you want, but I don't think this guy at this level, at this stage, really matters where the hell he is. You know what I mean? It's just like you're asking him. I mean,
he was able to deal with the pressure of, having his debut at 17, 18-year-old against a stacked AC Milan. So all those years later, he's not going to have a problem playing at Celtic Park.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's more of a question for, a guy that doesn't have the experience, that's maybe younger or whatnot, and say, hey, are you ready for this atmosphere? But to ask Buffon that, it's almost insulting him, are you going to be able to handle this atmosphere? Oof. Buddy, do a little research before you ask your goddamn questions. But anyways, the announcer got me pissed off about a minute in with this whole thing. And then we just keep going from there. So nothing comes from the corner. The fans are going nuts. And out of nowhere, 3 minutes in here, great long ball from Peluso. Even nicer shield by Matry, steering his guy clear. They're lobbying for a call, but he cleverly gets him behind. He taps this thing through the keeper's legs. It's rolling. The defender comes in, saves it. Looks like he saves it. And he plays it out, clears it on the goal line. But Marquisio's there and smashes it home for 1-0. They go back to it. Matry does get the goal. It's over the line originally. Wouldn't have mattered. Marquisio slams it home. And just like that, and there's your atmosphere taking a big blow. 1-0 up, 3 minutes in, and I just started laughing. And I'm like, that's fantastic. And you just hear the announcers, and they're just like, Oh my God, that's so unfortunate, and what a terrible goal to give up and stuff like that. But honestly, the counter was like very, very rapid from
Yeah.
Juve, and Peluso again played a great ball. Peluso ends up having an absolute game in this one. He was fantastic in this game. But there you go, 1-0 up, and man, it's unbelievable,
Well, I mean,
unbelievable.
just to touch on the finish from Marquisio, like you say, he smashed it into the net, which he did, but there was two defenders on the line for Celtic, so he couldn't just pass it into it. He couldn't just pass it into the corner or tap it in. He had to rocket that,
Oh
and
yeah,
it went right in the top corner. There's no way the goalkeeper or defender can touch
no,
it because you see the Celtic defender, he's going to the ground like to block it with a tackle because he thinks the simple shot, he's not going to try and sky it all over the bar. But, Marquisio, he just had that intelligence about him where he just knew where to put the ball and where it had to go for it to go into the net.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they had their guys back there. He was also, I think, probably somewhere between 6 and 8 yards out, and he's just, yeah, he's making sure nobody's stopping this damn thing.
Yeah.
Um, and then after the goal, Celtic comes right back at Juve. They're sending a ball into the box, into the area there, and they're lobbying hard for a PK, for an elbow from Peluso, apparently. Um, to no avail. There's no call. I watched it back and I was just like, wow, it wasn't what they were making it out to be.
Nah. I mean,
Standard.
it was more of a slap, to be honest.
It
Even
was there's nothing there.
yeah,
Yeah, and then they do keep pressing. Celtics coming at us pretty hard. Wanyama ends up volleying one, but ends up going right at Buffon, who swallows it up, shuts everything down. We're 7 minutes in here. Peluso with another dangerous ball. Marquisio is back post. He just barely can get to this. But again, great ball from Peluso. He looked sharp right from the get go. 9 minutes in, terrible clearance off a cross and a dangerous opportunity off a volley. But again, Buffon made this save look relatively easy, but it was a pretty solid diving save down low. But he made it look very, very easy. Maybe if they had a better atmosphere. And then 15 minutes in, Juve start to kind of get their rhythm. Not just really taking wave after wave. They start to get their kind of play developed a bit. But Celtic still just seems to be winning a lot more 50-50s, and just generating more overall pressure. But they're not very dangerous. Like
yeah.
they're coming at us in waves. They're winning a lot of 50-50s. They got the ball in our end most of this, opening quarter hour, but it's just not dangerous. A lot of crosses in, whatnot. Barzagli was incredible in this one. He was so clean throughout this whole match, and he was eating things up easily. Caceres had a really strong match.
Uh, well, I mean, this is one of those games where if you're watching it live, you're pulling your hair out thinking, Celtic are all over us here.
Yeah,
They're going to score at any moment here. But when you go back and you rewatch it, Celtic they never really troubled Juventus that much. They were the more threatening team. They were more aggressive. They were more attacking. But all of their efforts, bar one in the first half, was long-range efforts from outside the box, and
yeah,
they were generally comfortable for Buffon. They just couldn't get past their defenders.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of their opportunities were, again, from the crosses and stuff. And when they're running into them and trying to hit these, it's like, it's going to take a hell of an effort to try and settle a ball that's, like bouncing a foot in front of you to try and direct it to goal or whatnot. Like, it's just, it may have looked dangerous at the time live, but when you watch back, you're like, oh man, that's like, they're just not generating a lot of quality, right? And then we get, a little further into it, and you just see them chipping away at Pirlo. That was their thing. They were going to man mark him and chip away. And there's a little sequence in there about between 15 minutes and 22 minutes roughly where he gets chipped and there's no call, and as he gets up he kind of throws his shoulder into the guy's groin area there as he gets up, and very un-Pirlo like, but it was good to see. Like, he's just like, oh yeah, you know what, you want to do that, that's fine. But then Marquisio steps in, and then Vidal steps in, and then I kind of loved it, because it was like, you know, there's that fight that this Conte team had, and this we're not going to take shit from anybody mentality, and I loved it. So even to see Pirlo do that, you know, but at the same token, you know,
I'll name the guy who he shrugged his shoulder into, Scott Brown.
It was Brown.
That's his name.
Yeah,
and he's got a reputation here for being a proper, like Sergio Ramos, a shitstormer.
Yeah,
he's got that reputation about him.
Yeah,
and I think I'm pretty sure that was a reaction from Pirlo for something that happened earlier, where, like, you know, Scott Brown's all over him as you would expect, and Pirlo goes down just from the pressure. And funnily enough, it was similar to the last game that we're talking about, the Milan game from 2004.
Yeah,
it was similar to what happened between Zambrotta and Cafu, where Scott Brown just climbs all over Pirlo deliberately, knowing that it's going to piss him off because he's trying to get up and he's pushing him down. And Pirlo got quite irritated by it. It was quite rare to see. You know, he was getting right in Scott Brown's face and mouthing off to him. So you knew there was going to be a receipt coming at some point for that.
Yeah, and I mean, Pirlo just historically, like, it's just that's the one way to get him, you know. And I did feel his frustration because the ref wasn't calling quite a few, you know, and that does suck because they were fouls, like they were all over him, they were chipping away at him, and it's just like, okay, how's he supposed to, you know, play his game? But, you know, historically he gets checked out if it gets physical like that, but he's got the capability to kill you in a moment. So, because he's got that skill and ability, so he's got to stay on. He's got to just battle through it and do his thing, right? The nice thing about this was you could do that to Pirlo, but you still had to deal with Vidal and Marquisio, and Marquisio in this one was fantastic. So for them trying to man mark and get Pirlo out of the game, it just allowed Marquisio to just really do whatever he wanted to. He had a spectacular game in this one. As we keep going through, again, some pressure, some waves from Celtic, but results in the 27th minute in an overhead attempt from Commons there, and it's just nothing. It's just going wide again. They're just not very dangerous, right? And then after that, it really just pretty much turned into Lichtsteiner battling Hooper on like corner after corner after corner, and both players end up getting yellows, and it's just hilarious. The announcers are lobbying for calls, and they're just like, there's a foul, and I'm like, my God, like Lichtsteiner's literally standing there just stopping him from interfering with Buffon, because that's what they want to do. They want to get in Buffon's face, prevent him from getting there so that they could get cross. And all Lichtsteiner did was stand in front of him, put his arms up, say, I'm not going to touch you. And then as the guy tried to battle and go through him, then Lichtsteiner started tossing him to the ground. He's like you're not going to do this, right?
Yeah.
And
well, I'll have to give credit where it's due. Antonio Conte clearly done his homework on this team, because in the Barcelona game, Celtic's opening goal came from exactly the same scenario, a corner kick. They put a man on the goalkeeper just to distract him and obstruct him and stop him doing his thing and getting into the right position. And they headed it into the back of the net, and that was their first goal. So obviously scouts or Conte or someone has been watching those games and have spotted that, and they've went, we need to put someone beside Buffon just to get whoever's near him away and just keep them off him. And that was Lichtsteiner's job, and he done it very, very well.
Oh yeah, it became comical. Like, it was actually, I was just like, oh my God, this is just like repeated, and the yellow card didn't stop either guy.
But the thing was, Lichtsteiner wasn't doing anything wrong. Like, you know, Celtic fans to this day, the commentator at the time, there's the way they talk about it is you would think Lichtsteiner had a hold of Hooper's shirt and was wrestling him and cuddling him. His hands were literally like that. He never laid a finger on him. He just stood there and blocked him.
And I was just gonna get into that because this announcer really was driving me nuts because he's just like, oh, they're showing the replays and I was like, there's a foul. You cannot obstruct someone from making a run. I said, in the same token, that forward is entitled to his space. Lichtsteiner is entitled to his. So he cannot run through Lichtsteiner. If Lichtsteiner has a right to his space as well, it's just a two-way street. This is fine. It's normal. It's part of the game. That guy wants to stand there. There's nothing wrong with Lichtsteiner standing right next to him. And if he tries to run, there's nothing wrong with Lichtsteiner running alongside him. It is what it is. They get tangled up. They both fall. That's fine. But these announcers were just trying to paint this picture, actually stating that they're cheating. Like cheating. And then it was wild to me. Absolutely wild, man. I was losing it. And, even the write-up, because you dug up the post-match, and we'll get into that later, and that just even, I thought I was over this, and then all of a sudden I'm fired up again, because I'm just like, what a bunch of clowns, but we'll get to that. That's literally how I remember the whole first half shutting down. It ended up 1-0 at the half. Juve was looking very, very good on counterattacks in this. I just remember them being able to, in the blink of an eye, go from defending to on the throttle up in the final third and looking much more dangerous for having so much less possession and opportunity up in their end in comparison to what Celtic was doing, wave after wave, where we still looked far more dangerous and far more likely to score.
It was a classic example of, possession doesn't mean everything in a game of football. You can have the ball at your feet, but if you don't do much with it, then what's the point of the possession? And
exactly,
it was just so great to look back in this game and just see how quickly we were going from defending to counter-attacking, and just how quickly we went down the wings. And every time Juventus had an attack, and admittedly, they didn't have many, but when they did go on the attack, they looked more threatening than Celtic did. And it was more calculated.
Yeah. And this is like a prime example for what I describe as beautiful football. Because people get this idea that I'm talking like it's got to be offensive full throttle. Like, no, this by no means was a great performance by Juve. But it was a very, like you said, it was calculated. It was like they had a game plan. They all knew their roles. They all knew their jobs. I think they anticipated what what Celtic was gonna do to Pirlo, and Marquisio made up for it. And that's probably why he became the focal point. And they knew that probably was how it was gonna play out. But it was amazing. You could see us literally just absorb wave after wave. No, without issue. But again, if you were watching it live, you'd feel a lot different. And I probably,
definitely.
But when you look back, you're like, man, it wasn't dangerous, right? And then you look at us just, boom, like that, 3 passes and we've got almost a breakaway, or coming up and Marquisio's almost getting to a beautiful cross, a back post, for easy goals. It just, again, the ability to do that instantly was just awesome to watch. It was actually beautiful. They knew who was going to be the pivot. They always knew where that pivot was going to be, and he would play off the wing backs, and that's how they always started. And it was just if the wing back, not only the wing back was an option for the pivot, but you'd have that other midfielder. So either Marquisio or Vidal, when the ball hits the pivot, one of them remains, but the other would actually continue his run. And there was a couple times where they're free and clear. The end ball was either misplayed or cut out or whatnot, but it was great sequences to watch. They knew exactly what they were going to do. And then it was really, really cool to watch. And this is like I said again, just what I like to see when I talk about beautiful football is just not only a game plan, but everybody knowing their role and actually playing as a unit. Not just
Yeah.
talented individuals. So in the second half, we get to about 57th minute, and really from 45th to 57th, it is one-way traffic from Celtic. Juve does end up moving their line a little bit deeper. And again, I just think they totally felt unthreatened and said, hey, let's invite even more to strike, to hit them on those counters. I totally think that's what they wanted to do, and they wanted to suck them in even more to be able to create that and whatnot. As we go
Well, I
through
mean,
this...
we've seen. Sorry to cut you off there. We've seen that same tactic applied to the current day Juventus. When we play against I'll just say it. When we play against an inferior opponent, like they'll just compact the defence and compress it and narrow it because they know we can't pass through the middle, and we have to go wide, and they'll just deal with the crosses, and that's what we were doing all night against Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the thoughts going through this second half after we passed 57 minutes. Bart Zagley, to me, just class. Like throughout this one, it was just like masterclass from him, man. It was just, everything was so clean and precise, and he knew what was happening before. He was always 2 steps ahead this whole match.
Yeah.
Like, it was just awesome to watch Bart Zagley. Pirlo struggling. He's just losing the ball a lot, like uncharacteristically, right? Like a lot. And just part of it we talked about was that physicality. But again, he's got the ability to just provide like a moment of brilliance that'll just be the difference in matches. So it is what it is. You take it. Well, luckily we had Marquisio having a great game. Vidal in this one, not like, he didn't have a bad performance by any means, but he was just more defensive. I think that's just,
I mean, it was more his physical side of the game in the midfield that we were looking to, because Pirlo has he had little to zero physicality about him. Marquisio, he could go forward, he could go back, he had it all really, and you saw that in this game from him. So we didn't need Vidal bombing forward, because that was Marquisio's job for that night. So I think Vidal was mainly just to shield the defence and sit in front of them.
Yeah, and he's, like I said, he didn't have a bad match by any means. He just he was needed defensively more. 61st minute, this was probably actually the best opportunity for Celtic. They had a clear-cut header right in front, but they put it right at Buffon. Buffon handled it. That was probably like the best chance, where I even watched and I was like, oh man, I think he's going to bury that one. Didn't. 66th minute, Vucinic has a one-timer that hits the defender right in front of him after a great ball by Peluso, but like, I was thinking he's going to smash this thing home. Hits the defender, unluckily blocked. And Peluso, I remember thinking at this moment, there's another great play from him and ball and whatnot, and just having a great match. Right as I think that, he ends up having to come off because of an injury. Padoan comes in, our utility. And then he starts getting into it, guys, with on corner kicks, and I'm like, look at this, like, just keeps continuing these goddamn corner kicks. But again, these sequences of corners from Celtic, and then the announcers again just calling for fouls, talking about the Italian game, like actually making it an Italian game thing. That's just
a stereotype.
What's that?
That's a stereotype.
It's unbelievable, and I'm just like, my God, man, that, like, I literally see that all the time in all match, but they literally had the gall to say this is an Italian game thing. Like, they get away with it there. I'm not sure why this ref isn't calling it here, and I'm just like, because it's part of the bloody game, you guys. Like, holy Christ. I almost had to mute it. I almost had to just mute sound,
That bad, huh?
Man, unbelievable.
I thought it was funny how we're like because Hooper was having so much trouble with Lichtsteiner, Celtic decided to put their troublemaker Scott Brown on him momentarily for one corner, and Lichtsteiner just wasn't having any of it.
No.
And he actually gave. It didn't like throw him. He actually just gave him a little push, and Brown falls to the ground, and he looks at the referees and say, "Are you going to do something about this?" And the referee's like, "Get up."
The best part was Lichtsteiner grabs his own ankle and falls after he pushed him just to be just in case. Oh,
it was just brilliant to watch.
It was that part was actually funny. Oh man. But another sequence of corners, these announcers being so sad, and it was almost like perfect timing, because as they start talking about the Italian game and all this, we counter. We come up with this long ball. Marchisio traps it beautifully, skins his man, buries it, 2-0. The celebration, runs to the Juventini, celebrating, epic moment. I remember that celebration. Awesome. 2-0 up, and that really puts a damper for the crowd. They got very, very quiet. You start hearing the Juve chants going from the crowd, and it was just such great timing when those announcers want to talk about the Italian game, and then none other than an Italian, Marchisio, puts another dagger in there for him. This was a beautiful goal to watch, though.
Yeah, I mean, it came straight out of nowhere. It came, I think it came straight from a Celtic corner or something along those lines.
Yeah, we were in that sequence of corners, and then we
were just so quick in transitioning from defence to attack. And Celtic, they weren't prepared for it. They were completely asleep in defence.
Yeah, and
it was really good play. I think there was like 3 passes between Padoin, Marchisio, and Matre, or something along those lines. Yeah. And it was just made even more sweeter for me watching it, because I was watching it with a Celtic fan, and Scott Brown is the fan favourite for that club, and it was Scott Brown that was the player that got skinned by Marchisio for the goal.
Oh,
and it was just perfect.
I love that goal, man. I absolutely love that goal. And it makes it in a lot of the skills and goals videos. Whenever you see the Marchisio compilations, that one's in there, and it's a beauty. 80th minute, Matri ends up coming off for Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba ends up coming into the match there. 83rd minute, and Juve, they strip the defender of the ball. Marchisio feints a kick and then just places it ahead of Vucinic, who comes in and buries it for 3. Make sure he lets the crowd know what just happened there. And just beautiful, quick to see this turnaround and whatnot. But Marchisio is just, it's the little subtle things that, go unnoticed in his game and whatnot. But he was complete. Like, he was just a complete midfielder. Definitely, I think, underrated outside of Juve fans.
Oh, yeah.
Grossly.
I mean, outside of Italy, he's underrated and underappreciated. I mean, I always rated him, but it wasn't until, we lost him, basically, that I really looked back on old games and I really saw how effective and how important it was for the midfield. And Marchisio, before those injuries, I think it was in the 15-16 season, before those injuries, he was just so good and so crucial to the midfield. Yeah. Because, you had, Pirlo was never gifted for the physical side or the pace side, so it was amazing for his passing range and spotting, a great assist. He was amazing for that. But Marchisio just had everything else to his game, and we sorely missed Marchisio when he wasn't in the midfield. Yeah. I mean, I would say he was more important than Pirlo at times in the midfield. Yeah, because Marchisio could go back and defend and attack, whereas Pirlo was, and he's one of my all-time favourite players, so I'm not criticising him, but, Pirlo had no defensive side to him. He couldn't sprint forward, and you could get a moment of brilliance from him, but I just thought Marchisio was more effective at times.
Marchisio you could put in any position in the midfield. That's essentially how you'd have to say it, right? Whereas Pirlo's got to be that deep line playmaker or whatnot. But Marchisio, he could play that role for you too if you needed him to, right? Yeah. But it was just the reading of the game combined with the motor he had, and the engine, and then the subtle little things. Like, he's coming up on that. It's a fast break. But he takes the time. He takes that little extra second just to feint, just to flat foot that defender before he slides it ahead of Vucinic, which gives him that extra bit of time to just make sure he slots that home, right? He was just so smart, even the way he cut that play out and just read it. We just talk about how clean Barzagli had a match, 2 steps ahead. Marchisio was like 3 steps ahead in this match. He had a great match. Awesome to see. And then Vucinic comes out after turning it 3-0. Anelka coming in, and I was like, oh man, Anelka. I do remember Anelka, joining us, whatnot.
I remember signing him, but I don't remember seeing him play.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, Anelka, man, holy.
We had a really weird period where we let Del Piero go, and we never replaced him until Tevez. So I think and this is what severely pissed me off when Del Piero left. He was getting up in age, so it was understandable, and he was probably on, I don't know the exact amount, but he was probably on a lot of money for his wages. So I understood the approach, but the fact that we replaced him with, Bentner, Nicholas Bentner came in,
I know, disappeared.
Yeah. Anelka comes in, disappeared, and I'm like, what the hell are we doing with these signings?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was a weird time. We had so many just like randoms that you're just like, what the heck is going on? But anyways, yeah, he comes into this. There was barely any time left, and to the Juve fans chanting this one out, and the Celtic fans basically leaving early. We finished this one out, and what a great victory. Could we have not allowed so much pressure from Celtic? Sure, but again, we invited it after the first half, where we saw that they were really toothless in the final third and not a lot of real danger. So we invited it to finish them off, and they did it. Like, Juve, this was a game plan that played out exactly how I'm sure Conte would have drawn it up. But just the fight in that team was fun to watch. Like, everybody having each other's backs, and just that we're not going to take shit from anyone attitude. Lichtsteiner, Vidal, even Marchisio getting in there, Buffon getting in on those corner sequences, stepping up to one of the guys, just saying, you know what, like, stop being an idiot. And I think he grabs his face and kind of shoves him off on one corner, and it was good to see. We had that attitude, we had that identity, with a swagger about our play, where we knew we could punish you too. It was cool. It was just different, right? When you look back.
Because you need those characters if you're going to be a successful team. Every successful team's got those characters in them. Real Madrid, when they were in their winning phase, they had a guy like Sergio Ramos. When we are still in our winning phase. We had guys like you spoke about there, like Lichtsteiner, and we've got Arturo Vidal, and basically the entire backline of Chiellini, Barzagli, and Bonucci. So we always had those characters, because you're going to come across teams that technically they aren't as good as you, they're a level below you. So they're not going to try and outplay you, they're going to try and outmuscle you.
Yeah.
And just get physical and just try and put you off your game. So it was important that we had those type of characters in the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. You gotta have a balance. The thing is, for some reason, like when we look at the new Juve, you've got those guys that have these different roles, but the technical ability just doesn't line up. Whereas Juve has always had that technical ability, historically. We've never sacrificed the actual skill or ability.
Yeah.
Just did a recap about the 2002-2003 team, and we talk about even the guys that were underappreciated. Tacchinardi, Birindelli, Pesotto. These guys still had incredible ability, technically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're great players. So, yeah, you got to have those guys. You got to have the right mix. But for some reason, like lately, we've just got this mix where the ability's been sacrificed. It's strange. But this match, this was a great watch and a great pick by you. The announcers, I probably need a little bit more warning next time that I'm going to get that fired up. I'll try and calm down. Oh man, this was awesome to see, the goals. Marquisio in this one, he was just shining through to me. He was my man of the match. Who would you go for man of the match in this one?
I would probably agree with you, but Lichtsteiner. Lichtsteiner, that's my man of the match. Just he was all over them and he was involved in everything.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But if from a technical standpoint, Marquisio, because he was just so threatening going forward and he was doing his job in defence. But just for the comedy value, I would go with Lichtsteiner.
Yeah, and then under the radar man of the match, even though he didn't finish it, Peluso. To be honest, fantastic match from him. So no, this was a great one. If anybody checks out this match after, you'll get a kick out of the Lichtsteiner corner battles. Like I just remember laughing. Like it was unreal. But yeah, no, this is a great one to watch. Thanks for recapping.
No problem. And the other thing I've got to mention about this. So the result was 3-0. We had a clean sheet. Asamoah, who was the first team regular, he wasn't playing because he was playing in the African Nations Cup just prior to this. So, Conte decided, I think he was on the bench, decided to rest him. We didn't have Chiellini either. I can't remember if it was a suspension or an injury. So, we were missing two key players defensively, and we still managed to keep the clean sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. We also need to touch on the comments that you dug up after the post-match, which just kind of further infuriated me and whatnot. But this was the coach, right? It was Celtic's manager. Yeah,
he's actually the current day coach as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he came back, and he's a former player. And,
okay.
And he's he's a pain.
Do you have the write-up still handy on what he was saying post-match?
I can get it for you.
I believe I still have it as well, pretty handy. It was just, I couldn't believe that, he was continuously speaking about essentially just cheating, it being cheating.
Yeah.
I think I've got it here where the Celtic manager revealed that he had compiled a DVD of the repeated incidences of wrestling caught by the TV cameras but unpunished by the Spanish referee Alberto Malenko, and will ask for an explanation from the governing body of European football. In quotations, I heard someone else saying it is part of the game. It is not. I am sorry, said Lennon. He continues, that is not part of the game. That is not marking. That is cheating. That is gaining an advantage. That is preventing a player moving. It is obstruction. It is foul play. I am not trying to embarrass UEFA. All I am looking for is clarification. So if we are playing in Europe again, or when we go to Turin, are we allowed to do that? If we are, then we will do that. I don't know if the referees do reports on the European games. I would like to see his report. I don't know if we are allowed to do that. I appreciated him at halftime. He was very dismissive. I approached him at halftime. He was very dismissive. My God, man.
What referee's gonna be happy about a manager, approaching him at halftime? It's just dodgy to be seen talking to a football manager in the middle of a game to begin with.
When you watch the match, though, it's just like both players are doing it. Just don't be an idiot. You know exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to gain advantage in your own right by obstructing a goalkeeper, for Christ's sake. Think about what you're arguing. You're arguing for the same thing. You just want the advantage.
Loser.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I think they should have just responded by sending him a towel to soak up that amount of tears.
And I guarantee he'd done a lot worse in his playing days.
Oh my God.
Guarantee it.
Anyways, So the recaps, or this was a great one to watch. It was a fun watch. A great victory. Marquisio goals, fantastic to see. Vucinic come up in some discussions this week because one of his rocket goals had come up on a clip there, and I just said, man, like Vucinic was quite a funny guy. I actually enjoyed him. But he would score these ridiculous goals out of nowhere. But he'd also have games where he just looks like it's his first day on the pitch. Like he was just like one or the other, like one extreme or the other, right? But he did his part. He played his role. I actually enjoyed watching Vucinic, to be honest. Matry as well. Like Matry was all right, man. I feel like Matry never reached his actual potential.
Probably, yeah, because he had plenty of opportunities. I mean, he played for us, and then he played for Milan. So it's not like he was playing for lower league clubs throughout his career. But he had moments. He had his, like the thing, in my opinion, what we lacked in attackers back then was consistency. We had good players. They maybe weren't world class, nowhere near the level we've got right now, but you know, they would do the job for you, but it was just a lack of consistency. You didn't know if you were going to get, you know, a 10 out of 10, you know, on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it was the consistency. But Matry, like, in this one, like, he was so strong. He was so strong on the ball. He was playing that pivot role perfectly. Scored the first one. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I look back and he's one of those guys and I'm just like, man, I feel like he could offer so much more and it just never panned out. But, yeah. Let's wrap up with, as we do fan focus interviews and whatnot, let's do a couple questions for you before we sign off here. And I'll ask you, what's one thing, you know, that you would change in your time as being a Juve supporter? It could be a result, it could be anything, like just in regards to Juve, you would personally go back in time and change.
I would change that Cardiff result, because that, for me, that was the moment, because that season was brilliant. You know, that team looked solid. Higuain gets a lot of crap, but he was phenomenal that season. He scored something like 30 plus goals in all competitions, but because the guy cost, and I can't remember the exact fee, so I'm just off the top of my head, something like 90 million or whatever it was, because it cost that much, and because it came off a record-breaking season with Napoli for goals scored, you know, people just, you know, they just rag on him a lot. Yeah. And he scored some big goals for us, but that season I thought he was very good, and the team was very good as well. And during that season, we got to the midway point, and Allegri decided, I've got all these options for attack, and I've got Mandzukic, I've got Dybala, Higuain, how do I play all these guys? And he came up with his 5-star formation, which was really effective and really good. And we had something like, I don't think we conceded any goals in the knockout round at all. We were really solid in defence, and we were really threatening going forward. And we scored some stunning goals that season as well. You know, everyone remembers the Barcelona game. Everyone remembers the first leg against Monaco in the semi-finals with, you know, that great goal from back to front, you know, with all the passes and flicks. That was brilliant to watch. And I just remember watching the games at the time, and the closer we got to the final, you know, I thought to myself, we could do it this time. We could really win this. Yeah. And, you know, shit hit the fan in the final. So it tainted that season. I can't even look at the kits the same way. I can't look at them the same way. It's like I'll look at that home shirt and I'll just be like, yeah, Cardiff, and put it back in the wardrobe.
I know. That's Cardiff's just that stain, man. It's just that stain. It's just, you can't get out, and you're just like, fuck.
It's just because we were capable of so much more.
Yeah, that was a full scale meltdown at half. It wasn't even like it was the whole game. It was literally that second half.
Yeah,
it was just like not Juve. It was just not Juve.
The neutrals I was watching the game with, you know, even they said to me like, something happened, but at half time, you know, that team's not came out the changing room, and I'm like, I can't argue. Yeah. But with when it comes to Champions League finals, you can take your pick for which one you would want to change, but I just feel that one was like the worst for me. Like we had the Milan one. I would love to change that because I was heartbroken. I think I was like
kicks are always terrible, man.
yeah, but like I was like 14-year old or 15, something along those lines, and when you're that age or you're around that age and you're watching your team in a cup final, you just feel like this is my team. My team's gonna win. That's just the way it works. And then they didn't, and I'm like, how'd that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah. Oh man. What's a story, like just a funny or interesting story, or just like a great moment about your time as a Juve supporter? It could be watching at a certain venue. Have you been to the stadium? It could be being in a stadium live.
Unfortunately, I haven't been to the stadium live, and I was actually planning on going sometime this year because I've finally got things in order. Like I've had to like do adult stuff, spend my money wisely on other things.
Yeah.
But I thought to myself, this year I'm finally going to go to a game. I'll go for a weekend in Turin or whatever, spend time at the stadium, do the history tour, the lot, and then that's going to be a memory. But current circumstances happened, and I don't see that happening for quite some time. At least it won't happen this year anyway, for a start.
Yeah.
But one of my standout memories is very recent actually. It's the 3-0 win against Atletico Madrid, just because it was so unexpected. And I just remember watching it, and I wear a Fitbit, and I'm sure I tweeted this out. So I've got a Fitbit with a heart rate.
Yeah.
And my heart rate was going absolutely crazy during that game, especially during the end. And I think I tweeted it out on my old account. I'll need to check and see if I've got the picture still. But it just went through the roof during that game. And I remember the penalty from Ronaldo for basically the winner, and it was as if I was on the pitch or in the stadium. I turned around from the TV, I couldn't watch. I just turned around, I was just like, I'm going to wait for the crowd reaction.
I know.
And the following day as well, my voice was completely shot. My neighbours must have wondered what the hell was going on because I was screaming and shouting at the TV. It was
that's amazing.
It's a great night, a great moment.
I was doing the same. I still go back to that episode. It was me and Rocco Fasano after we won that match, and that's just a great episode to listen to. It was such a just raw reaction, and just emotion still coming through is so fresh, and it was one of those tough to believe, like you wanted to stay optimistic, but it was like you realize the opponent, you have respect for that opponent, and then just to see it happen. And not only that, but it was Ronaldo on our side now, and just it was crazy. It was just unbelievable. It was almost surreal when he steps up for that PK and buries it for us, and even just the whole thing, it's like a Ronaldo hat trick saves us, and gives us new life in this tournament, right? It was cool. It was epic.
It's the weirdest thing when Ronaldo's in your team, because whenever you get a penalty, you just immediately think that's us got a goal before he even hits it.
Yeah.
You're just so used to seeing him doing that. But it's quite funny. All my favourite memories in the Champions League involve a club from Madrid, because we had a sequence where we just regularly beat Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And I think it began from your previous episode that you've done on the 02-03 season, and then after that we just kept facing them. We faced them 2 seasons later in the round of 16 again, eliminated them again. We returned to the Champions League after a season in Serie B. We meet them again in the group stage. We beat them again, home and away.
Yeah.
And it just became a regular thing.
Yeah.
And I loved every single one of those games.
I loved it. I love it. That's awesome. The very last question, I will say, who was your favorite signing at the moment? At the very moment. Not who turned into a favorite signing that surprised, but who's your favorite signing in your time as a Juve supporter the second he was brought in? And who was your most disappointing signing? Someone you expected much better from that we never got.
It's incredibly difficult not to say Ronaldo. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of someone else, but it's just, his status in the game. Everyone knows how talented he is and how. I mean, let's face it. He was the difference maker for Real Madrid for so long in the
Yeah.
Champions League. I mean, any time you faced them, you were expecting him to score against you, and when he did score against you, you were like, well, I saw that coming. That's no surprise. It just felt like you were starting 1-0 down, especially in the 16-17 season. Maybe not for Juventus because we played them in the final, but their run to that final, it just seemed, I think he was scoring for fun.
Yeah.
And he's just so clinical. And it felt like a turning point for us because, as big as Juventus are, you never really expect them to make that type of signing, because you think of, I don't know what their situation is now, but you think of like Real Madrid, PSG, the big English clubs, they're loaded. They've just got unlimited, money to spend. At least that's the way it feels. So if they sign a big name player, you're not that surprised. But when we signed Ronaldo, it's like we're back. We're in the big time here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm really trying to think to go back. Maybe I was quite excited about Ibrahimovic.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a completely different example on a different level.
Yeah.
I was really excited when we signed him.
Yeah.
And Patrick Vieira as well, actually. And the reason I was excited about Patrick Vieira, and we're going back to 2005, was because I was hoping he would have the same effect that David Beckham had for La Liga in the UK. Because La Liga wasn't really covered that much. But then obviously you've got the English superstar David Beckham going to Spain. Well, the TV companies are going to have to coverage that. They're going to have to follow him. So suddenly Spanish TV was all over Sky Sports here. And Italian football, Serie A has always been bounced around from TV company here. I don't know what it's like for everyone else, but it just feels like, maybe after a season or two, you're bounced to this company and then you're bounced back.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that with Patrick Vieira, big name Arsenal player, I was hoping someone would pick the rights up and we would get regular Italian football. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way because, what happened with Calciopoli screwed everything up because no one wanted to touch Italian football for a while.
Yeah.
And my most disappointing signing, off the top of my head, Oliver Capel comes to mind. And the only reason I say him is because I was playing, I think it was called Championship Manager at the time. And when I was playing that game, I'm something like 14, 15 again. And he turned into an amazing player in that game. He was like one of those wonder kids, and he was phenomenal in the game. And then Juventus signed him in real life, and I thought, we've got a gem on our hands here. This is going to be brilliant. And then he was gone in a year.
Yeah.
It's just those silly wee signings.
Nice. Yeah, that's I mean, that's a pick for sure. I threw out Diego for me. I expected more. That one kind of sucked. Always liked him. Was pumped when Juve got him, and it just, we know how that played out.
I forgot about him, actually. It was because he was unlike Capo, he was really good for a couple of games early on. I think he had a brilliant game against Roma, and you're thinking, this is a star player. We haven't signed a star player for quite some time. Yeah. And then whatever happened. I don't know if it was a change of manager, tactics, or whatever, and he just disappeared.
Yeah. Very, very last question, and I'm going to ask you this one, and it's going to be very, very difficult. I know you're a jersey collector as well. You could only wear one Juve kit for the remainder of your time. Which one do you pick?
I don't have it. I would wear the 95-96 away kit.
The blue one with the Sony and the stars. Yep, Champions League winner.
That's the one I would wear.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's. I love that kit. It's an absolute class. There's so many good ones. I don't know if I would. I can't even pick. I couldn't even answer. I don't think, not right away, because I think I would end up just being biased to something with stripes. I always go back to those 98, 99, the Champions League one with the Tele sponsor, black and white stripes, Kappa. Had the Kappa down the sides. I don't know, that one I keep going back to. 97, 98 home, beautiful. I just like the way the numbers were on the back. The 95, 96 one's in there. It would be really hard for me to pick, but it would probably be between the 95, 96 away and that 98, 99 Champions League with the Tele sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that away shirt was my very first one. So I've got a lot of sentimental value to it, as well as what happened with the Champions League final. But, just to touch on what you were talking about there, the Kappa shirts are just classics. Every single one of those just screams, vintage classic shirt. Yeah. And they look so good with the Kappa going down the side. I don't think we've had really, really nice kits down the years, but those Kappa ones just stand out from the rest.
It was like a match made in heaven, man. The company's based out of Turin. Juve, the squad, like the kits were just beautiful, like all of them, and it was just, man. And now it's just, I think Kappa as a brand is just not in the wheelhouse for, to financially compete, to get in there to actually do that, right?
I mean, as much as I love those Kappa shirts, if we went back to Kappa today, I would be very, very worried, because all the Kappa shirts that I've seen over the years have been those combat shirts, and it's a guessing game for getting the right size. So if you're normally a medium or a large, if you buy a medium, that thing feels like an extra small on you.
Yeah, the sizing would switch with Kappa. It's kind of like Puma though. Like Puma's got very tight fitting. Like, because I know, like, I buy the Azzurri kits, and they're pretty damn tight fitting with Puma there. But those combat ones are, I don't know. And then even just like lately, their designs, I think like people that are calling for Kappa to come back. Well, I look at like the Napoli's kit, and it's like pretty nasty, and I don't know, like they got that weird shoulder thing, and it's like, for me, being in Canada, it reminds me of almost like a hockey jersey where they got these. It's weird. So I don't know. Adidas, I do think, needs to step up their game when it comes to Juve, but
I mean, I've got a quick question for you, because you're a shirt collector as well. Like, see, when you go back and you look at the older shirts, like maybe like the 2002 one, for example, because I know you like that one.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I'm wearing the Buffon's goalkeeper shirt from this season, do you feel that when you look back at a shirt from, say, 2002, and you look at a modern day one, do you feel like the quality in the shirts really went down? Like, they feel thinner, like it feels easier that you could tear them.
If you compare to the 2002-03 one, especially, because that thing is like the thickest material I've ever had on a jersey, then for sure. But they are a much thinner, lighter, breathable like material. Very, very thin compared to the older ones, for sure. They were just, I don't know if it's like a quality thing, just like materials, right? I think they're just, man, I don't know. I think they were using probably not as cost efficient materials as they are now, where I think like it costs them a hell of a lot less to make these things now, And
they charge you more.
Yeah, absolutely. But that 02-03 one, they are thick shirts. Like, it's like you work up a sweat in those bad boys pretty quick, especially when your heart rate's spiking because you're watching Juve play and all that. But I don't know, some of the quality, like this one though. This particular one from Nike, which was from the season of the game we recapped, it's a bit of a thicker material too, though. It's not quite as thin as the newer ones, and that one's from 2012-13, and they have a bit more substance to them. These newer Adidas ones are very, very thin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the most frustrating thing for me as well is, I mean, I've always bought a UK medium size, and they've always fit me. And then I started buying them with the newer ones, and suddenly they feel tighter. And I'm like, this is weird. And I'll go back and I'll wear an older shirt, same size, like, UK medium, and it fits me perfectly. So I need to go up a size with the newer shirts now. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that.
I don't really know. I know with the boots too, randomly, because I've always used Adidas for boots, and all of a sudden, I think it was 2 years ago, I had to change my size. Like, it just, the size I always get just didn't fit anymore. And I was like, well, that's just bizarre. Um, and I think I had to switch 2 years, and then it might just be the boot designs or whatnot, but like, I don't really know. Like, it should just be a standard, you would think, from a brand, because I never had that issue when I was wearing Nikes or whatnot. It was just standard every year, whatever style boot it was, or whatever, it was just, that was my size. And they
Yeah.
used to fit fine, and then I switched to Adidas, and I was an Adidas size for a while, and nothing changed, and then all of a sudden, like, past 2 years, I've had to go down half a size, like, randomly. Just weird. But yeah, that's it. Graeme, again, thanks for taking the time to do another classic recap. This is awesome. I've been having a blast actually watching all these older Juve games, especially the ones you forget about. It's just so much fun, and I can't recommend it enough. Especially for newer Juve fans, like, go back and watch, like the mid to late 90s Juve, even earlier 90 Juve, with Baggio in there and whatnot, and just take the time to, like, watch some of these epic moments and matches. It'll give you a better idea once, you start listening to the podcast, we start referring back to some of the greats that have played for Juve. It's great to actually have a point of reference and see these guys in action, and really appreciate all the good talent that we've had the pleasure of watching with Juve over the years, right? But thanks so much for taking the time again. We can do it again. I mean, there's no timeline right now for COVID, so we don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. I mean, this is one of the few good. Well, there's nothing really good coming of what we're all going through, but as a football fan, this is one of the few good things about it, where you've actually got plenty of time to go back and watch old games that you would think, oh, Real Madrid from 02-03. Older Juventus fans, they always mention that game. I've never seen it because I'm a younger fan. I'll go back and I'll watch that and see what the fuss is about this Nedved character. Yeah. It's just a great opportunity for, like, everyone's got a ton of time on their hands. Just you could spend it and just see what the older teams were like. I mean, I'm going to go back and watch some of the late 90s games, because I couldn't regularly watch a football back then, just to see how good that team really was. Yeah. I mean, looking back at this game, I forgot how brilliant Marquisio was.
Yeah.
And I've watched a few games from the Champions League in 95, 96, and Del Piero was good when I could watch him regularly, but he was a completely different level before that injury. So
yeah,
take the time and just see how good these players were and how different the game was back then. I mean, it's the same game of football, but Jesus, some of those tackles you'd be banned for life now.
It's true, and that's a good point too. Is just the difference in the game too, right? But when you start looking at the 90s, and Serie A was the place to be. Like, Calcio was huge. The 90s, that was the league. So take the time, for anybody who hasn't, start watching Juve through that time when that league was stacked, and we were still coming out, winning titles, making 4 or 5 consecutive finals, whatnot. Like, just, it was incredible. And the players that were on that club, and yes, Del Piero pre-injury was a different animal. Absolutely crazy to watch. But yeah, it's all great. Thank you so much again. Thank you everyone who's taken the time to listen or watch the video. Please reach out if you want to take part in one. Just pick the match. We'll watch it, recap it. If not, you want to be a part of the fan focus interviews, same thing, reach out. I'll send you a list of questions, you prepare, and then we come out and just have a good time. Graeme, thanks again. Thank you, everybody. Until next time, Forza Juve, Fino alla fine. Ciao.